From the Ugly Parrot Studios in Newcastle, California, the Luma Cigar Cartel presents Beyond the Humidor, a cigar podcast for the rest of us. Welcome back, Scott Robinson with you for another episode of Beyond the Humidor. We are at episode 110. I feel kind of silly counting these down, though, because that's the intro all the time, is I'm giving you the episode number, like anyone really truly cares. Or maybe they feel bad because they're like, wow, this is episode 100? Well, what about the other awesome 99 other episodes that there were?
I don't think that's what they're thinking.
I don't think so either.
Probably not.
They're thinking, how'd these jackasses get to 110?
Yeah, that's more like it.
Yeah, I'll let you a little secret. I was surprised we made it past 7, but that's another story all entirely. Let's go around the room and see how everybody's doing. I love the first of the intros is going to the gorilla enclosure and checking up on the gorilla. What's going on, gorilla?
The gorilla's doing pretty good. It's Monday.
The gorilla
Nothing more to say.
No cigar today?
So the gorilla has no cigar today. He has assistant scoutmaster duties to perform after this recording.
Okay.
So.
I was going to chastise you and say, why didn't you say something? Because, between the three of us, we've got something, but I understand.
We will get you a faux cigar for the next one of these.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
One of those bubblegum cigars.
Wonder if, the one that your wife gave to Reno, if we have that one still. I don't think so. Yeah, it's probably all chewed up anyway.
A little extra dog slobber on your cigar there, gorilla. No extra charge.
And then we have Greg and the beard. How's it going, man?
It's going good. No more Bang Bang Niner game. We don't have to hear that BS anymore. The Chiefs won. All is right with the world. And, oh, by the way, baseball is finally back. Let's get that started.
I could have bet money. I could have bet my mortgage. He'd have said something about, guess what? It's baseball season now.
Yeah, well, pitchers and catchers report when,
next week.
10 minutes ago?
Next week.
Okay. All right. I thought you were going somewhere else. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Take it easy, man.
How you doing, Larry?
Better now. God.
All right, before I go too far in the gutter, let's just real quick talk about what we're smoking. Greg was gracious enough to give me is this a Christmas or birthday present?
I don't remember. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Nice.
From Caldwell, The King is Dead. I finally cracked that 5-packer open.
Very nice.
And so far, initial light, very nice cigar.
Good. It's one of my favorites. The Caldwell line can't be beat. Good luck getting last SARs. I have them all.
Yes, I know, but I know where to get a Lazar if
True.
I, need to. And I am pairing it with this Barbancourt Haitian rum. Wonderful rum. We've had it on the show before. So just amazing stuff. What are you smoking, Greg?
I am finishing up a nub, which I will actually put out for the recording and go to a little celebratory cigar for our guest that's joining us in a moment here. I've got the 1502 by XO by Global Premium Cigar. It's an 18-year aged tobacco. We've talked to the owner, not on a StreamYard with the podcast yet, but we did that recording with him back when. It's Enrique Sanchez, and this is an 18-year-old aged. He's very tight-lipped about the blend. I can't even find it on the internet. But if it's a cigar that you guys are willing to spend some coin for, pick that cigar up and give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Some coin. I like it. Hey, Lawrence, what you smoking, man?
I've got a Family by Loyalty cigar. The Giri, I believe is how they pronounce it. It's Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. It's a Criollo 98 binder with Criollo, Nicaragua, and Pennsylvania filler, medium strength, little peppery, some chocolate notes. I've been pulling on this thing for a minute, lighting it up before we got started. This is my first one of these. This came in our PCA grab bag from last year.
Okay.
And I'm really impressed with this so far. It's really smooth. I like it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we go any further, the pet peeve of yours and everyone's, some of the labels, very intricate, very nice, but when they start having like the Russian Klingon-esque letters where you can't decipher what it's called.
Yeah, I had to utilize the gorilla and a reverse
Yeah,
You
I
explain it,
believe
Greg.
on your phone now, if you go to like the Google homepage, there's a little camera button on the side of the search bar. Click that, you can snap a picture of anything and it'll find it. That's how we looked up. So if you're having a tricky cigar label, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Gorilla
'cause
top tip.
Yeah,
Gorilla
because
top
I had no idea what this was when I pulled it out of the cello and cut it. And I'm like, yeah, all right, we're going to try it.
All right. Well, without further ado, we have a guest for this show, Deputy Executive Director and Chief Lobbyist at the Premium Cigar Association, Josh Habursky. Welcome back to the show, Josh. We've had you on before. It's always good to have you here, letting us know what's going on in our community. So pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I think the last time that we had a conversation, we were staring down the barrel of a gun, so to speak, with a lot of regulations and, crazy stuff. And I think that this conversation's a little bit more positive, where there's been a lot of relief. And, we still have our challenges and battles, and we'll get into talking to some of them, but certainly not as crazy in terms of what the government has been working on at this point.
Absolutely. If some of our folks who just come aboard this episode or a couple before who probably aren't privy to what had happened when we last spoke, could you talk about some of the ridiculousness that our lovely federal government was considering?
Yeah, I'll talk federal and state.
Outstanding.
Federally, with the litigation, we're 3-0 against the Food and Drug Administration. The overall challenge to the deeming rule, that has subsequently been decided by Judge Maida. The FDA is appealing that decision, but the decision itself was pretty formidable in the rationale why the FDA got everything wrong. And now, whereas the burden of proof was on our side, so to speak, now it's on the FDA to substantiate why the district court got it wrong. So there's a record that has been built over the last 10 years of where the federal government has gotten the regulation of premium cigars wrong. And we feel very confident that in this appeals process that we're going to remain victorious. And you look at what the public record that the FDA filed, there's nothing new. It's the recycling, regurgitation of the same arguments that they failed the last go around. And, we feel confident that we have the data, the research, the science, as well as the law on our side. And, you can see some of the public filings that are out there. You had some public health groups join in. Our team is steadfastly working at our response to that. But, I think right now, because of that result, a lot of cigar retailers and a lot of cigar manufacturers have a lot less stress in creating new products and, developing their businesses.
Nice, because I know at the point of some of the ridiculous legislation, there was a question as to if manufacturers were even going to bother trying to bring out new stuff for fear of this legislation, such as the flavor ban. The Food and Drug Administration's, help me out here if I recall right what they were trying to pull.
Well, one of the things that they were trying to pull that when we spoke, which actually it's been a really long time, that was back in November of 2021.
Yeah.
One of the things that they were trying to bring in was the fact that any new cigar that was made, unless it was a reblend of a current line, had to go through some form of testing, much like cigarettes do, which would have killed us.
Yeah, and that was the second lawsuit. That was one that had to deal with pre-market review and substantial equivalence. The first was warning labels, and then the third one was challenging the deeming regulation itself. So as it relates to premium cigars, and the judge defined premium cigars in the case, it would basically exclude flavored products as well as machine-made products from being considered premium cigars as per this litigation. So we are still fighting the characterizing flavor ban. The federal government has actually delayed releasing that. They were supposed to release it last year. In an election year, a presidential election year, we believe that there's some political challenges with releasing that. So both the menthol cigarette roll as well as the flavored cigar roll, or prohibition as we call them, have been delayed, and they haven't really given an update when that's coming out. Now, the concern there is twofold. Number one, actual flavored products being prohibited, but number two, if somebody, yourselves, Beyond the Humidor or a cigar publication or a manufacturer describes a non-flavored cigar as having notes of chocolate or peanut butter or cocoa or whatever, that may be a characterizing flavor itself. Certainly some free speech issues there. We've challenged that every step of the way, and we'll continue to put up roadblocks. But when I said in my intro, we feel a lot better right now. The deeming regulation, even though it doesn't apply to premium cigars that fit within this category, PCA, as the retail organization, our mission statement is to protect the business of specialty tobacco retailing. We are now able to weigh in on every regulation that the FDA comes up with that we believe may or may not in the future affect premium cigars. And basically, we're stating in everything, should you decide to redeem premium cigars and go through rulemaking again because of the decision being vacated, we want to weigh in. You need to reopen the docket so that we can provide foundational commentary. So we've been leaving breadcrumbs in 4 or 5 regulations that have been proposed over the last 2 years. And we feel confident that we're going to be able to, push back on that. You've seen some flavor bans attempted in the states as well. We've been pushing back there. Right now, Massachusetts is the only state that has one in effect. But there's certainly some challenges there as well.
Wow. That's good stuff.
I think, I don't know if ours, Josh, is also in the same category. California, we had to remove a lot of flavored stuff out of our cases, cigarettes, things like that. So I don't know how far that's going here, but
Massachusetts, California. I mean, you're right. That California was a recent one. It's been challenged. It was gone through referendum. It's been a bit of a confusing history there. And if you ask California if they have a list of flavored products, they don't. And what constitutes this? It was such poorly written legislation. They even went back around. If you recall, they initially, the state was going to have a generational smoking ban in California, and ban. If you were born at a certain date, anyone after that date, you weren't able to do that. That bill actually changed into improving the flavor ban because it was so poorly done the first go around. So, it's one of those where I consider Massachusetts like they pretty much, that's being enforced. There's a lot of issues there as well. People are just going and buying their flavored cigars, across state lines and bringing it in. So it really has done nothing. You may have decreased sales in Massachusetts, which decreases their tax revenue, but has just moved from one state to the next. And that's all that will happen with California. People will buy their products in Nevada. So it's bad public policy. And you've seen this. I think it's an example of how they've moved away from the generational smoking ban, although they say that they will go back and attempt that again. Hawaii and actually Tennessee, which is a bit surprising, has introduced generational smoking bans this go around. These are modeled after bills that were proposed in New Zealand and Australia and parts of Europe. You have kind of a revolt even within the parties in the United Kingdom, they were discussing this. And then, the iconic Winston Churchill is discussed, and people remember the him shouting freedom with the cigar. And with that, you've seen a lot of people have backlash about generational smoking bans in the UK because of premium cigars in particular. New Zealand has said that they will roll back their generational smoking ban. That's some of the worst public policy that's out there. But last year, we had 7 positive bills, either tax reductions, tax caps, legalizing cigar bars where adults can have a bourbon and a premium cigar together. So I definitely want to highlight the positives there. There's some egregious, crazy things that always will percolate. I don't think that there's been too many positive bills coming out of Hawaii or California, but for the vast majority of them, they've gotten struck down. They haven't been successful, and people continue. California is still a robust premium cigar market with some fantastic lounges. And, it's a challenging environment. There's certainly states like Utah and New York that have challenging tax environments, and we're working to try and lower those as well to, make it a little bit more easy to enter the business of specialty tobacco retailing.
Ha, the train's passing by.
Coming. Well, I remember, Josh, when I was out in Vermont, and this was about 6 years ago now. Vermont has a ban where you can't smoke inside. So they don't have lounges. They have cigar shops, but there's no place to sit and smoke and enjoy one inside. And let me tell you, when it's 1 degree, trying to smoke outside is not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, and that all is tied to what's something called the Clean Indoor Air Act, and each state has different ones. We actually just ran a report. One of our legal intern put this together on the Clean Indoor Air Act in every state. Basically, what it takes to smoke indoors in your state, to start a business for indoor smoking. And, it's really interesting. You have certain states where it's very easy. All you do, submit your paperwork, you submit your tax records on a quarterly basis, but you're near instantly granted the ability to do so. Pennsylvania is a state where it's very easy to get an indoor smoking exemption. And as a tobacco shop, all you have to do is maintain 50% of your sales being tobacco products, and you can enjoy that. That's not very difficult to do. But you have other states, you're right. Vermont is an example. They're another one that's attempting a flavor ban right now. They are no friend to our industry. But it is frustrating. You have some states will try and ban smoking within a certain X number of feet, or an outdoor patio, or parks and beaches. That routinely comes up. In Florida, they were trying to get rid of smoking in outdoor beaches and parks, mainly as a travel and tourism thing. We were able to get a carve out and exemption for premium cigars. So on a beach and a park, you can't smoke a cigarette or vape, but you can light up your stogie. And sometimes your local inspectors or people will try and say, no, you can't do that. We help write that law, partially because Florida is such a robust state for the cigar industry, and most of our manufacturers and cigar enthusiasts will make pilgrimages to Florida to enjoy some of that, and we want folks to be able to enjoy a premium cigar. You're not throwing your butts, into the ocean or leaving things go. Most premium cigar smokers are very respectful of their surroundings, and they just want to enjoy a cigar over scenery. I personally do that. I enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's one of my biggest things is when I get in that situation, they're like, oh, you're smoking a cigar. Yeah. I have my little portable ashtray with me. My butt goes in there. It doesn't go all over like the cigarette, and it's true. I found that in all my travels is how respectful most cigar smokers are.
Why did you give me that look?
Nothing. I'm just the two of you are in that too. You know. I mean, we camp all the time, and there's only one. There's two counties in this state that are unfriendly to that: Sonoma and Santa Barbara County. Santa Barbara County, you can actually get an $80 ticket for smoking outside, and it's just like, come on, guys, really? But the fun and interesting thing is, you can still smoke weed, and they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a paradox when it comes to looking at some of the emerging cannabis legislation and regulations than tobacco smoke, and it's a challenge because you have some political differences within each state and federally, where you have allies on certain things and then adversaries on others. So that's why we're a very bipartisan organization. We are trying to recruit and support candidates across the board that are friendly to A, small businesses, but B, to premium cigars in general. There are folks that, we spend a lot of our time on Capitol Hill in particular, and my colleague Glenn Loop in the States, educating lawmakers basically to show the differences between premium cigars and other tobacco products. You would not believe the number of people that believe cigars are just big cigarettes. And that's unfortunate. And then you kind of get into it, and we just had a meeting last Friday in the U.S. Senate and talking about the similarities and comparisons between the wine industry or the bourbon industry. You can get very cheap boxed wine, and a lot of people like that. But there's also your Camus or your $100 bottle of wine out in California that I'm sure you guys are aware of. Those are different things. My job isn't to put more restrictions on other tobacco categories. My job is to protect premium cigars and retailers and the products that they carry. So I think it's important when we talk about federally the definition. We are protecting that. That's what the courts determine. We're trying to advance that forward. But across the board within the states and federally, I'm fighting for flavored cigars because it's 15 to 20% of, in many cases, of what our retailers are selling, and I'm protecting their bottom line, and I'm protecting adult consumer choice.
I didn't realize it was that high. That's an interesting figure.
Well, some of this legislation is real interesting, how they guise it as, and with any legislation, we're trying to protect the children. Flavor bans protect children, and cigars just don't fall into that.
And well, the three of us and the five of us here, including Josh, we spend a significant amount of time inside of cigar lounges. Not once, unless it's a sting by the government, have I ever seen a kid come into any lounge I've ever walked into and try to buy a premium cigar, ever. So it's one of those where
it's cost prohibitive. I mean, you can, and look, I mean, I'm seeing a trend. I follow a lot of the economic trends of cigars. You're seeing a lot of higher end premium cigars. I'm kind of opposed of using the term ultra premium, because I think premium cigars themselves are a luxury product. But you're seeing cigars that are $50, $100, $50 to $100 now. Most companies that, their most expensive cigar was around $25, are in that $50 to $100. They're introducing lines that have $50 to $100. And then, on top of that, talk about your, unfriendly tax states, it can go upwards of $100. No, eighth grader is going to spend their allowance on something like that. I think it's insane when, there's examples. I always find it, kind of irritating every time the FDA or a public health group has pictures of kids, vaping or smoking, and it's usually cigarettes or e-cigarettes. but the policies themselves would encompass premium cigars and they would go after us. So they conflate things together. And, the research studies that the FDA has been using against our industry in premium cigars, most of that data that they're using is cigarette information. So it's, a vastly different products, vastly different user patterns, vastly different youth usage patterns. I mean, youth usage for premium cigars is negligible, and that's per their own studies. But then they conflate that with other products to diminish it. So I will never forget one of the FDA meetings that I sat in, and actually they most recently used it in the court filing. The public health groups did, and in their amicus brief, was they talked about Cigar Aficionado using Nick Jonas, a youth sensation, on the cover of Cigar Aficionado, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Nick Jonas is in his 30s and he owns a tequila company. Like, at what point do you become an adult?
Right.
Like, it's absurd to think that, we're being chastised when we have an adult that has built multi-million-dollar businesses, that owns one in the alcohol space, which is another age-restricted product, that we're being targeted for, basically going for that youth demographic.
And we'd have to argue that alcohol is much more prevalent in the underage sales category than premium cigars will ever be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was funny that we were talking internally with a few friends watching the Super Bowl yesterday, and routinely, whoever wins any championship, there's going to be cigars in the locker room, and we saw that with the Chiefs again. And my biggest worry was Taylor Swift was going to be caught with a cigar, smoking a cigar, and yeah, there would have been a little bit of boost, but then instead of Nick Jonas, Taylor Swift would be used in these FDA meetings as, oh, look, the cigar industry is trying to appeal to youth, female audience, and with cigars. So, it's just crazy how much kind of, absurd things that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one for me, though. Just the conflation of like trying to drag children into it.
Yeah, I like I said, I've never seen one. I don't think we will, but and again, we're talking someone who is at least 30 years old if she's not in her late 20s. Again, that's an adult. So adults can choose to do what they wish. That's why we become, well, some of us grow up. I don't know about myself, but
well, per that study that I referenced, which is called the PATH study, the average age for, when people have their first cigar is 30 years old. The median's in the late 40s and 50s. So, it is an adult hobby pastime, and your average cigar consumer has less than 2 cigars a month. Now, I'm sure that, we're the outliers. We're the outliers in that category. But like, that's what the data says. I mean, when you think about it, yes, you have your super consumers. I put myself in that category. You guys are probably in that category. But there's a lot of people that, they have one on their birthday or when they go golfing or, some celebration. They're not, the daily cigar smokers. And even the folks that were daily cigar smokers, they had no discernible health differences between a non-smoker. And again, that is the government research that, they funded. It's a longitudinal study. But, you talk youth access. One of the things that we've made it a stringent point within retail stores. We sent every member, we ID, 21 and over, but also, it's recommended up until 30 that you identify people. And, tobacco establishment, put this on your register, put this on your front door. That's something that we did as an association. We also most recently released a acknowledgement form, a recommended template for owners of cigar shops, lounges, and bars to share with their employees that basically in their employee handbook or upon hiring, they acknowledge that they will not be, selling to persons under 21. But I think it's another paradox that the FDA, Congress passes a law, raises the age from 18 to 21. I think 41 or 42 states also passed that same law, raising the age of smoking or purchasing for smoking to 21. And the FDA hasn't promulgated a rule. They were told by Congress to do so. Now, they weren't told to do a characterizing flavor rule. They weren't told to do a manufacturing product standard or a nicotine maximum threshold, which are all proposed rules or rules that the FDA is working on. But they have yet to provide any guidance or a proposed rule on the age of smoking. So why don't they focus their attention on something that the legislative branch did pass and was signed into law by the executive branch, and one that we can find common ground with retailers? We want to help that. Most patrons and consumers of cigar bars and owners don't want to have a bunch of kids in their cigar lounges, nor is it already happening now. So I think that's another point where the FDA has certainly missed the mark, and leadership is focused in the wrong areas.
It wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Well, there's always been a war between non-smokers and smokers. I mean, whatever the case may be it cigarettes or cigars, you have the non-smokers. They fall in one of two categories. Former smokers who are extremely militant about any form of tobacco. Then you have the non-smoker who never smoked in their lives, who just don't understand. It's like, what's the point of sitting there, puffing on a cigar or smoking a cigarette? They're two entirely different experiences. The cigarette smoker, sneaks out on break, hot boxes a cigarette, 15 minutes, goes back to work, or whatever the case may be. A cigar smoker, more relaxed, you take more time to actually enjoy the smoke, have a community, sit back and talk about the problems of the world, what have you, or just sit in peace and just contemplate. It's an entirely different experience.
And you bring up a good point about, smokers' rights and kind of demonizing smokers. I mean, it's one of the only categories that it's socially acceptable in, the public eye to demonize. I mean, I'll give you an example of it. We're fighting legislation that would raise, healthcare rates for, cigar smokers. We're fighting employment discrimination for people that are smokers. There are actually government entities and private businesses that will fire you if they find out that you're a smoker. And a lot of institutions are out there. For instance, at the state level, there's this group called ASH, Action Against Smoking and Health, or something like that. One of these, nonprofit groups. They have a tobacco lobbyist tracker, and they go around and they basically dox or out tobacco lobbyists, trying to get them fired or making it more difficult for them to be, socially acceptable members of society. So if they're part of a nonprofit board or, they do something in the community, their premise is these people represent known, people that are known racketeers. That's the term that they use, known racketeers, and that they are not to be trusted, and you shouldn't work or do any business with them. And it's ironic, like they only do it at the state level, because I desperately want to be added to this list, because I would file a lawsuit if I lost any income or anything based off of that, because racketeering is a crime. You have to be convicted of a crime.
Yes.
I am not a racketeer. I have not been convicted of racketeering. So, like, again, that's absurd. That's one of those kind of outlandish examples. But, I could see it down the road, because no one gets upset, or unless you've had it to yourself, no one gets mad about cigar or tobacco or smoking discrimination. I teach at George Washington University as an adjunct professor. I teach state and federal lobbying, and I could see this group going after me for being a professor. I teach graduate students, so not even undergraduate students. Most of these folks are working professionals. Some of them are older than I am. And I could see them saying that, I teach and I'm impressionable of my students, and I'm a tobacco lobbyist.
Well, you keep doing what you do, sir, because, we appreciate the effort.
Most definitely.
The problem is, Josh, is those outlandish examples exist. And if we just ignore them, then they keep mushrooming, keep getting bigger, more of them come along, because there's a comfort level to that. Oh, well, this group over here is succeeding with being, utterly ridiculous. We're going to start our own group to be just as utterly ridiculous, but we're going to pick a different venue or different product to focus on. That's the scary part.
Yeah, I think that it will always be a challenge. I mean, none of this stuff is going anywhere. We're going to have to continue to fight and be vigilant. But I will say, and I've been with the Premium Cigar Association, or IPCPR PCA, going on about 5 years. And even in my time there, I have seen us go from being very reactionary and defensive to going on the offense. We're not afraid to call out bullshit, to be honest. And I think that that's important, to have that mentality of, you know what, we're not going to just remain silent and hope that the problem goes away. We're firing on all cylinders. Malden, Massachusetts tried to pass a generational smoking ban, just outside of the Boston Logan Airport area, 60,000 person city, very small. We opposed that generational smoking ban, sent letters to all the health department officials, the city council, the mayor's office. We would not have done that 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago, before our lawsuit. I really do believe that we have changed our mentality. We've changed our focus. I mean, a lot has been attributable to our leadership. I mean, Scott Pierce, our executive director, myself, and Glenn are very aggressive. That's been my style of lobbying from the very beginning. I lobbied for motorcycles and banks before this, and now I just am in my comfort zone. I love premium cigars. I am, a consumer. I'm involved in, a retail shop in my hometown in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm proud of it. I am. My mom is the general manager there. She retired, needed something to do, and basically said, "Hey, this is a reputable industry that you should be proud of," and I wear that on my sleeve. I have no qualms about telling anyone that I'm proud to work in the premium cigar industry and enjoy the camaraderie. That's the greatest part of my job, is getting to meet consumers, retailers, and people of the industry, media such as yourself, be on programs like this and try and embolden people to stand up for their rights. Because at the end of the day, when my children or my grandchildren reach the age of 21, I want them to be able to make the decision for themselves, knowing all the history, knowing all the research, whether or not they want to enjoy premium cigars like I do, and sit around and meet people. I think that I've met some of my greatest friends, even outside of my day job, over a cigar. and it's been part of my identity going back to college when, I could enjoy cigars. At the time it was 18, and I've enjoyed it all along the way.
Josh, how long you been smoking now?
I am now on 14 years. 14 years.
Same with me.
So.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on out there behind the door. So, Josh, last time we chatted, it's been a little while. I know you had your own line started. You had one out. How big's the line now?
Yeah, so a lot of these have kind of shifted to exclusive to my retail shop in Erie, and then also in Quantico, Virginia, partner in that. I have, right now four cigars. One of them, which is sold out, the Chicago Typewriter. It was a collaboration right before Alec Bradley was sold. Alec Rubin is a dear friend of mine, and we wanted to do something, that we enjoyed. I wanted a short cigar that I could enjoy walking between congressional offices, and we did something called the Chicago Typewriter, worked with Clearwater Distilling to pair it with a rye whiskey. The rye whiskey sold out. The cigar sold out within like 4 hours of being available. We did a very limited run. This was more just kind of a passion project. I'm a huge fan of mafia movies, so that's the Chicago Typewriter is the Tommy gun. For those that don't know, nice. We have a cigar called the Carronade, which I partnered with Liberty Cigar Company. The Carronade was the cannon used during the Battle of Lake Erie. Again, very close to my hometown. Packaging has Oliver Hazard Perry. My first one was El Politico, which is available at my shop in Pennsylvania. And then the last one, which was the most recent one, I celebrated 10 years lobbying as a lobbyist, and I created a cigar again with Liberty Cigar Company and an apple brandy that paired together. The story is that Ulysses S. Grant would sit in the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. It's right near the White House when he was president. And people would come into the lobby of the Willard Hotel and ask for political favors. That is when the term lobbying was popularized. So we called the cigar and the apple brandy the Lobbyist.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, tell everyone out there the name of your shop over in Erie, in case our listeners are, somewhere near there. They can pop by the shop and try some of these great cigars.
Yeah, it's the Briggs Cigar Lounge. It just opened 2 weeks ago. Very exciting. We have a special conference room, as well as a public lounge. We have 80 locker holders sold out. Have a wait list. It was great because when I was conceptualizing this idea, I wanted to do something nautical, the naval history with the Battle of Lake Erie. So like the TVs look like cannon ports. It looks like a ship. Very historic. We used the brick. Downtown Erie is one of the poorest zip codes in the country. And, the bayfront space has been through a multi-year revitalization. There's what's called the Erie Downtown Development Corporation. They were looking for businesses, and I got involved in kind of the second wave of redevelopment. And I went and I called all of the tobacco shops that were in the Erie area and asked permission first. I said, hey, I want to make sure that we're not, they're shops. They're grab and go in most cases. And then there's one lounge about 25 minutes away from Erie. And I said, we want to do a big space. Like our capacity is 86. We want to have cigar dinners. We want to bring in, reps, bring in the industry. really put Erie on the map because we're right between Buffalo, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. And for people that are traveling to those areas, we want to provide another avenue. We get a lot of tourists from Toronto and Canada where, cigar prices are absolutely insane. So we did that, and it was a 3-year process, battling with governments, the state. We were liquor license, no liquor license, smoking exemption, no smoking exemption, all of that stuff. Finally, ready to go, partnering with other businesses on the liquor side, but we're a BYOB cigar lounge with the smoking exemption on the 3rd floor. Got some other great businesses that are developing in the same complex. We're going to have a sports bar next door. On the 2nd floor, we'll have indoor golf simulators, and then a tailor on the 1st floor. So it's kind of like this dude's paradise in Erie, and really excited, again, to be involved with my family, my hometown, and getting folks that are part of these like non-governmental organizations to invest in premium cigars. People were shocked when that was happening.
That's awesome, man.
That is wild. I like that.
I'm imagining that you and those other businesses have to come together and create like the dude's paradise like package deal, like X number of minutes in the golf simulator, free appetizers, and like some sort of perk in the cigar lounge. I love that.
Oh yeah, we're all working together. We want it to succeed, and like we know that like if this doesn't succeed, it's very possible that downtown Erie and the Erie community itself doesn't have a cigar lounge for 20 years. So I think that you're right. We're working together, trying to come up with win-wins and partnerships. That apple brandy that I mentioned was made by Luminary Distilling, which is 2 blocks away. So working with all those local partners there, and the golf course that's expanding with these indoor golf simulators. They have a satellite humidor where they sell our cigars. So you're right, a lot of partnerships. And it's funny that one of the folks that was looking at the space was a yoga studio next door to ours, and I kind of said, I don't make this decision, but I think we can find something that pairs a little better with premium cigars, and I was happy they decided to go with a sports bar instead of a yoga studio.
That's definitely a better fit, man.
Yes.
Now, we also talked about a while back about your restaurant touring business. Is that still going?
Yeah, we're expanded to 5 taco and tequila spots, and really excited getting involved. The same group with a Italian restaurant, old school, about 15 minutes outside of DC. It's called Carbonara, and it is something out of The Godfather. I mentioned love mob movies, old school New York Italian, Sinatra impersonator, outdoor patio where you can smoke cigars. I plan on playing Pinochle, watching The Godfather on a pop-up screen, smoking cigars, and having like veal parmesan, and that will be opening later this month.
Love
Nice.
it.
Okay, I gotta ask, your favorite mob movie? I know that's a hard one, but I'm gonna ask.
Well, I mean, I think The Godfather has to be the greatest movie of all time.
Agreed.
So, outside of that one, I mean, I love Goodfellas. I mean, there's so many. I could go on and on. But, hands down, the original Godfather and what it did for cinema, I think that, when you talk about iconic films, like Star Wars with all the technology upgrades, but like The Godfather really just, I mean, it created a genre that didn't existed. And you think about all the cultural references and all of the, leave the gun, take the cannoli, like all the sayings and phrases that are now like used in the vernacular. It was just such an impactful movie. And I've read and gone to the Mob Museum. Actually, Glenn Luke, after the last trade show, we were staying a couple hours before our flight after the trade show had ended, and we went to the Mob Museum, and I got a couple books, and one of them was the making of the Godfather film, and all of its cultural references. Right now, and this is where I'm a history nerd, film nerd, whatever you want to call it, but I'm reading about the philosophical influences of the Godfather and how it connects to like Aristotle, Plato, all of that.
Did you ever see the movie? It was actually a series called The Offer.
Yes.
That was
The
an
Offer.
amazing series where it talked about the making of the Godfather.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I think the book that I read was actually kind of influenced that series.
Absolutely. Yeah, I myself, Godfather, that is definitely number one. But then you've got Casino and Goodfellas.
Casino's great.
Yeah, the one actor who just steals both of those is Joe Pesci.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I even like The Irishman too. I know a lot of people said it was too long, but I mean, seeing those guys come together for
Yes.
older in their careers, I think was interesting. Where you compare, their first films. I mean, Pacino and De Niro are great actors. They really are.
Yeah,
that was a good movie.
And Pesci.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in The Offer was when they had the dinner where all the actors got together to get to know each other at the dinner, and they were fleshing out their roles. And I cannot remember the actor who played Carlo, but then you had Sonny and how they interacted with one another. That was just a fantastic scene.
Oh yeah. Well, and you think about a lot of those movies. I think one of the reasons why I like that genre is, I mean, there's cigars prevalent in nearly every movie that we reference there. And like, I'm a big fan of historical accuracy. That's why like a lot of Netflix and some of those other entities out there are trying to have cigars banned and tobacco products banned from being recorded and being on that. And I'm against that, especially for historical inaccuracies.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Marvel, they wouldn't allow the actor that was in the new Penguin movie to have a cigar. That was a most recent one where it's like, this is absurd. The Penguin's character, again, that one, it's not as impactful because it's a fictional character, but can you imagine like, Netflix or one of the streaming services telling a documentary that Winston Churchill or Mark Twain are not allowed to have a cigar in their depiction.
Well, look at one of my favorite. We get into my favorite now that we're into Churchill, The Darkest Hour. That was a $30,000 budget of Cuban cigars, and on top of that, Gary Oldman nearly died of nicotine poisoning because he was smoking at the same speed, the same rate that Churchill did to dive into that role. And it's like, he's so iconic, particularly in the cigar industry, that you can't not talk about cigars. They did the same thing in The Crown. Every time you saw Churchill in every scene, there was a lit cigar. Every time.
Well, and plus, because of how they've been portrayed in media, having a character hold a cigar also non-verbally tells the audience something about them. You lose that bit of storytelling that you can do just with that prop. So yeah, that doesn't make sense.
And no, go ahead, Josh.
And then they said, even Churchill, it was often used as a prop where, he would make a point with a cigar. And like, it was so impactful. I mean, his leadership, study leadership lessons from Churchill. I mean, if you want to learn, how to public speak, learn how to influence people. But I think it's interesting how he, not only smoked a cigar, but he used it in his hand expressions and gestures to make points of emphasis and really move people into a direction. He was using the cigar for persuasive purposes. But I mean, one of the coolest experiences, and I hope I didn't tell this story on the last podcast, but one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had in the cigar industry, I was in London visiting on vacation. I was in first time ever, and visiting St. James, and went to Davidoff of London and met with Edward Sahakian, one of the great tobacconists, and he arranged for a cab ride for me to Chartwell. He had this friend who was an 85-year-old cab driver, and basically he fixed me up, and he's like, your money's no good here. You're not allowed to, you're not allowed to buy anything. Tell me what you want. And like, I've got some cigar when I was there, and I'm like, I'm buying this cigar. I patronize, I give money to retailers. Like I support brick and mortar. And, but the next day I go to get into the cab to go to Chartwell, which is Churchill's estate. And it's about 45 minutes to an hour outside of London proper. And Edward fixed what Churchill would smoke, the long format Romeo and Julietas, Cuban. And the cab driver was 85. And as soon as we got outside of London city limits, he's like, you are now free to light up your cigar in the cab. So I smoke the cigar, go to Chartwell, do a tour, have scones with the cab driver and a friend that was visiting with me, actually Ryan Parada, who used to work for PCA. And we're both smoking cigars at Chartwell. And then we go back and, to go back in the cab ride, and we still have our cigars. And I take the photo doing the up yours or peace sign on this black cab with this big cigar lit. And I'm like, it doesn't get much better than this right here. Like, this is one of the coolest moments of my life.
Amen to that. I think we've all had one of those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is when the TSA was taking all my lighters and shit out of my bag at the Denver airport coming back from Rocky Mountain. You can't fly with this. What about those other 11 guys that just went through here? Pick on the fat white kid. I see how it is.
Yeah, you got TJ Hooker as a TSA agent, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
We both did.
See, this is why you get TSA pre.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, shut up, man. You bougie fucker.
Yeah. No, I that's one of my favorite. That's one of the bucket lists is to go there. I have a friend who is retired Metropolitan Police in London. He now lives here in the States. He's like, if you want to see certain things, I'll go with you. And one of the things he goes, you want to go into Whitehall, and we can walk in the back way. We can't walk into the actual chamber, but you can walk up to the spot. The ashtray's still there where Churchill used to tap out his cigars. I'm like, yeah, I want to see that.
And like that whole ride to Chartwell, you're seeing like the Royal Air Force fields that were constructed, basically during the, defense of England with the Battle of Britain. So you see all these airfields as you're driving there. So you get that World War II history, throughout that experience.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, my bucket experience that I accomplished was when I went to Hong Kong. I'm over at the Conrad, outside on the patio, smoking a cigar, and I used to frequent this little cigar shop over in Sacramento, and they had what they called these red dragons, where the seed was grown in volcanic ash. So the cigar wrapper was red. So I'm smoking one of these, and two Chinese businessmen look over, they're smoking. We catch a glimpse of each other, and then we start talking, and then I exchanged a couple of those, and they were like probably $10 a stick. And they give me 2 freaking expensive cigars. I mean, I felt bad, but they insisted because they really wanted these cigars. It was just the connection. Just, we look across each other and then we start up a conversation. It's just incredible.
It's this industry is full of good stories and good memories and good people coming together.
Yes.
And, I think hopefully you guys are going to be joining us in Las Vegas in March for another family reunion with the PCA trade show to make some more memories.
We're trying. I don't know if we're going to make it. We missed last year due to several unfortunate events. We're trying this year. If not, we definitely will be there for 2025.
Yes.
In New Orleans.
Yes.
We're excited about that. I know that the team and Scott and Lisa, who run all of that, basically Glenn and I get to talk policy, but mainly have fun at the trade show. So it's our least busy week of the year, and their most busy week of the year, although we try and pitch in and help out. But they've been doing not only work for this trade show, but also starting preparations because we're going to a new city in New Orleans. And I think that they're renting out, a couple blocks of Bourbon Street for parties.
Wow.
So they're fantastic to work with. And I know that they're, creating some good experiences for both this year's show and next year's.
Well, I think my favorite with the 2022 event that we attended was, you walk in like the three of us for the first time. It was like starstruck for a minute, like, oh my God. And then it was like everybody's family. The industry is so big, yet so small. And it didn't matter that, we're one of the new podcasts on the block of here we are. And everybody it was such a great experience. It was like, it has to happen again. And I know that our listeners enjoyed the coverage and everything. And, so it's like, we got to get back there again with new and better equipment.
Yeah.
The first year was a little rough, but
it wasn't the worst thing in the world. We still got good coverage and, we learned a few lessons, but we still came out with some good quality coverage.
And and one of my favorite memories, I'll send you a link so you can access this video, Josh, of Larry getting creamed by one of the vendors. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I got clowned pretty bad.
With Chikar.
Yes. That's right. I almost forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I just said I almost forgot about it. I wasn't going to spill the beans or nothing. No need for the finger. Come on.
Oh, yeah, I'm a preemptive finger, just in case.
I see. Now, Josh, I know we talked about this before. What, from the consumer standpoint, because that's mostly what we're targeting on our side.
Yep.
What is the website that they can go to keep up to date with? Because I know you guys have the consumer site on PCA.
Yep. So www.cigaraction.org. We release, all of our alerts, federal and state, have some new resources. We routinely update that. We're also working on integrating that better with premiumcigars.org, which is our main website. So those are the two, websites that we kind of cover.
Yeah.
But I would also say social media. We've upped our game. Antoine Reed, he's another one of our staff members at PCA. He's been doing a great job in getting information out there. So our Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn, you'll see regular updates on what's going on in real time.
Actually, that brings up something interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on that real quick. As far as social media goes, they've gotten pretty unfriendly to the premium cigar industry. I know we were shadow banned for a while on Instagram because it's a tobacco product and this, that, and the other. Is it something that you guys are looking at to try and make these people understand that it's not the villain that they think it is?
Yeah, we're not advertising heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something with the what I call kind of private sector, just any companies in general. This is kind of an emerging part of my day job, my portfolio, as well as one of our consultants, Patrick Anderson, who we are, our job is really focused on lobbying any government entity, whether it's federal, state, local, FDA, White House, you name it. But we're also now having to go and try and talk to private companies to, negotiate changes to their terms and services, or then go around and put pressure, working with members of Congress or other elected officials to pressure these companies to basically allow legal adults to either market or sell their products. Social media is a problem. We've had issues with texting communication. We've had issues with banking. We've had issues with payment processing, and of course, social media. So, to answer your question, yes, this is something that we're focused on. It's a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging with private companies because they're not accountable to anyone other than their shareholders, or in some cases they don't even have shareholders. So they're, you can go, and that's the beauty of our country. We can go and tell our case to members of Congress, their staff, and try and exert change. Whereas with some of these companies, it's kind of a black hole. When it comes to the texting issue, there was a policy that was created by a trade association, much like PCA, but was being interpreted by their members in a draconian fashion. Some of their members were saying absolutely nothing's allowed to be texted out to customers that involves tobacco products. So, we had to go and have conversations with the association, with the third-party vendors that were integrating texting tools into their point-of-sale systems, and then also the carriers themselves, trying to get them, and then members of Congress when we kind of reached, no road or no progress over time. That's been an issue that we've been working on 2.5 years, and there's been very little movement on it because everyone else is blaming each other. Oh, no, it's that person. It's that person. Well, it's been egregious in that case in particular because we have companies that are citing this. It's called SHAFT regulation. SHAFT stands for Sex, Hate, Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco. And it's being used to prohibit speech that pertains to one of those categories. And tobacco and cigars are being lumped in the same category as cannabis, so it's being prohibited from sending. So in some cases, a retailer, let's say that your local cigar shop, you go, you buy a cigar, and you decide that you want to, sign up for their customer loyalty program and receive text messages. So you want to receive a text message about a cigar event that's coming up or a discount of some kind. Because of the SHAFT protocol, the carriers will actually prohibit that message from going to you. And the retailer will see on the back end of their point of sale system that they have insufficient credit to send the communication. So this is a real example. Now, the problem is no legislature or no regulator, the FDA, the Federal Communications Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, no one has passed a law. This is an association that comes out with guidance. The guidance is misinterpreted by their members. Then their members are telling other companies that they need to interpret it in this way that basically prohibits communication, or they will be fined. And then that's being passed down to the customers, which in this case is retail tobacconist. So just a cluster.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
a new one.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I got a fun question now.
fun away.
How many of our wonderful nut jobs that you deal with on a daily basis up in Capitol Hill are cigar smokers? Is it a good percentage? Is it a little percentage?
So, it ebbs and flows. This year, I mean, I think that officially we have about 70 members of the Congressional Cigar Caucus. And we actually have a Cigar Caucus event Thursday, a panel policy discussion, and then a reception. It's become very policy oriented. So from 2 to 3, you have 3 experts. Greg Zimmerman is going to be representing us, our immediate past president, and talking about policy. You're in a non-smoking room in Capitol Hill talking to staffers and members of Congress. So it's not just a junket where people get to smoke cigars. There is substance behind it. You have about 30 members of Congress that, I would say weekly smoke cigars in their congressional offices. You have some super consumers there. What is wild, and when I tell people this, they wouldn't believe it. I always say, we're a bipartisan organization. We need to, help identify supporters, no matter their political affiliation. House Republicans are our best group, where we have the most number of supporters, followed by Senate Democrats.
Wow.
In the Senate, Democrats are better than Republicans on our issues.
Oh,
Wow.
I guess I got to be a little bit more friendly to them.
Now, in California, I don't know if that probably doesn't hold true.
No, not here.
California is an anomaly.
Yeah.
The one good chance we had for cigar smoking legislation in California was when we had Governor Schwarzenegger, because he was and is super consumer as far as cigars go. But, nowadays, not a chance.
Oh.
I mean, not when our tax rate is 67.5%.
Yeah, it's a tough political environment there. Whether it's at the state level and the congressional federal delegation, the people that are coming from California are not really super consumers.
Yeah.
And that goes, Democrat and Republican.
Not like our friend and one of your board members, Josh. Crap, I'm blanking on his last name. Anyway, Josh from the Vault.
Habursky?
Oh yeah, Josh Everts.
Josh Everts, yeah. He, they got a great bill passed in there is to cap the tax at 50% in Idaho. So, the positive legislation is out there. We got to look for it, but it's out there.
Wait a minute, 50% or 50 cents?
50 cents, 50 cents.
There we go.
And that's one of the examples. We're giving the Idaho folks an award. I mean, they were one of the, I think, 7. There was actually 8 or 9 positive bills that were passed last year, but 7 were extremely impactful. Idaho, Nevada, and a cigar bar bill in Connecticut was also important. I mean, that one, they kind of did a pilot where I think the 8 largest counties are able to apply for cigar bar licenses, but in a progressive legislative environment, that was a bit of a surprise. So we're going to be giving out some advocacy awards to retailers and state associations that work very hard. And I know Josh, and I think that there were 3 retailers that were really instrumental in Idaho and getting that across the finish line.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Anything else, Gregory?
I'm running out of stuff.
Hey, I think we've covered a lot. So hey, it's always a pleasure to have you here, Josh. Always great to know, the new legislative hurdles and victories that us in the cigar community have to go through.
And stay positive, guys. I think we're like I said, I'm happy that I'm talking and giving the update now versus the last update that I gave was a little bit tenuous. We had a lot of stuff, a lot more challenges, and I mean overall, the association PCA, I'm going to go outside of the policy hat for a little bit, but our association right now has been the strongest it's been in a number of years. I think that Scott Pierce, my boss and our executive director, has done a phenomenal job in getting the financial health of the organization together. I think in the next few weeks, we're going to be announcing a new hire coming onto the government affairs team to help out at the federal state level, to help Glenn and I, triage that. So, we are growing. Last year was the best financial year for the association ever. And, this year's show already is on pace to even surpass that. So I think that, with the trade show and that funds all the operations for what I get to do. So it's very important for your listeners that are retailers and manufacturers to, participate, support the association. We do have a legal advocacy defense fund that people can donate to on premiumcigars.org. Just because we're 3-0 right now, still waiting on we'll have this appeal process. That appeal process will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then surely within the next 5 years we will be suing. We'll be involved in some lawsuit in the future.
Yeah, and I think it's important. The consumer at our level, at least I didn't know this until we became involved with PCA back in 2022. The consumer really sits there and doesn't have any idea how they can help. And that's one of the things that, much like, you will forgive me for using this example, but when people try to explain, well, what is the PCA? You guys talk about this all the time. I'm like, well, the other strong lobby for firearms? And they're like, yeah, I know what that is. I said, think of that. That's kind of what they do. They're out there supporting our right to be able to smoke good cigars. I said, and so, if for our consumers that are listening, if you can, throw a little bit of coin here and there to help them with the legal battles, you should.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we also partner with Cigar Rights of America. They're another consumer organization that people can get involved with. There's 3 associations. You have the Cigar Association of America, Cigar Rights of America, and then us, the Premium Cigar Association. We all, have some similarities and differences, but we work together. We're on weekly calls with one another. Our focus is the retailer. So my, mainstay is the 3,500 plus brick and mortar retailers, as well as the manufacturers of premium cigars. And that our mission is to protect the business of specialty tobacco retailing, which encompasses consumers as well. So, all 3 of the, spokes of the wheel of the premium cigar industry are involved with the PCA. And, we also work with our coordinate associations that have, strengths and weaknesses, much like we do.
Yep.
Outstanding. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm good, man. I think Josh has pretty much nailed everything down for us.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
How are your guys' fabulous cigars?
Well, wait a minute. Let's first, before we do that, Josh was telling us before the actual show started, he doesn't get to smoke with us, but you were saying, Josh, you're going to enjoy something very nice?
Yes. So I'm going to smoke a Bellicoso Limitada Liga Privada number 9. And
Nice.
what's funny about the story is my apartment complex was trying to crack down on cigar smoking, smoking in general in our courtyard area. And I brought the DC law to them and argued with them. And it's actually, as long as you're 25 feet away from the door, you can smoke. I took a tape measure out there and showed this is where 25 feet is. So I go out there and smoke cigars within compliance of DC law. So
Sounds like fun.
I like it.
Love it.
Larry, how was that? Yeah, that one.
I'm kind of slow pulling on this, but really rich, darker flavor than I expected from reading about the cigar. But I'm really happy with this. A lot of flavor, a lot of smoke. I need to look these up and see who has them locally. I'd like to try a couple of their other lines. They have a Sumatra that I was looking at, and then a True Maduro I'd like to see, get a couple of too.
Yeah. And I can tell based on the size of your nub, Robinson, you enjoyed yours.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Caldwell, amazing. That king is dead. Wow. I wish I had more.
I can't help you there because I don't have any more of those.
Yeah, that's okay.
You know, Josh, what happened with the Tabacalera William Ventura factory. I've been on a mass buying spree of every last cigar I can get my hands on, and I'm now at 50 plus boxes.
Everyone's got to have a purpose.
I got to restock my humidor. It's getting a little bit light.
You fly out here, I can give you half of what I got. We'll be good.
Wow. What?
Well, it's one of those things where like I have humidors at the businesses, and then humidors at work, humidors here. Like I have them in different places, and I've lost cigars. So half the time I don't even know where. I have one humidor in. I built a cigar room in my parents' basement. That's actually a 4-person. It's PK rooms. There's a gentleman, he was at the trade show last year, where you can get these like custom built rooms that have ventilation in the floor and ceiling. Mike Pike is his name. I think he's based out of Iowa. And it's the coolest thing. And my parents were getting mad that I was smoking in the house, like on podcasts and stuff like this. And I said, well, this is what pays my bills, so I'm going to do it no matter what. But I'm like, I will, if you give me 10 by 10 in your basement, I will find a solution. And I did. And I have a 250 count humidor in there tucked away. And I think that's where all my best stuff, hidden gems, things that I've gotten over the past 5 years from, personally handed from manufacturers and that. But I'm one of those people that doesn't save anything. I just smoke it right away. I don't think about, price or sentimental value, whatnot. I'm like, cigars are meant to be smoked. And
Amen.
I have smoked like ones that supposedly retail at hundreds of dollars, and ones that have retail for $10. And sometimes I like the ones that are $10 better.
You heard it here first, folks. We've been advocating that for years. Just smoke it.
Yep.
That's right.
We have the ultimate authority telling us just smoke it.
I don't know if I'm the ultimate authority. I'll be getting calls from people, giving me crap about that comment.
That's okay. Send them to us. We'll take care of it for you.
Unfortunately, our gorilla's not smoking this evening. He has some pressing business, but after that pressing business, I'm sure he will find a stick to enjoy.
Oh, but of course, what did you give me this weekend? I set it aside.
Adventura.
Ah, yes.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another one that, same problem, burn up in that fire. But, man, I wish I'd have bought more of those at Rocky Mountain. Those Adventuras are great. Every one of them I've had has just been a really just outstanding stick.
Yep.
So before go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just put an order in for the Viaje, the ones that are in the shotgun shell boxes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen those limited edition ones. And those for like a short smoke, those are phenomenal. I smoked the whole box of the last release, and I'm like, all right, this time I'm getting 2 because I'll smoke right through them.
Right on.
Awesome.
Before we go, speaking of the Gorilla and cigars, I have acquired the necessary accoutrement to start reseasoning that humidor. So I'm not sure if I'll do it piecemeal, week by week, give updates on our socials, or one video at the end kind of going through the whole process. Maybe both, but keep your eyes open for that. So I'll be working on that.
Good job.
And by the way, our next episode for you people out there in listener land, get your tinfoil hats out, get the Alien channel on the television, because we're talking micronations.
No.
I think I'm going to be sick
I
for
was about
that
to say,
one.
look, my dad has not been looking forward to this one. We've been talking about it for like 3 years.
Yeah, no, it's toothache. I feel a toothache coming on. You guys and your fucking micronation.
How bad can it be?
Really? Yeah, we'll get the gorilla to play some clips of past episodes that have gone off the rails. How bad could it be?
I
don't know.
I can edit this if we need to. Are we having a special guest for that episode?
Maybe.
We might.
I'm out.
Is his schedule going to free up?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay.
Yes.
He's a very busy man.
Indeed. All right, Josh, always a pleasure. Look forward to hearing more about PCA real soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It's always good catching up, and hopefully sometime this year, you mentioned Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival a couple of times. I think I'll be traveling this year to that. I didn't get to go last year, but I'm hoping to go this year. So hopefully our paths cross sometime this year at a cigar event, or you guys have an open invitation if you're ever in Washington, D.C. We have our office is right near the U.S. Senate buildings and Union Station, and we have a cigar lounge on the first floor where we have different events and that. So come by and have a cigar if you're in the D.C. area.
There we go.
Outstanding.
All right, man.
All right, you take care.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank
See you soon.
Always good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Great.
Yeah, I think it's about that time now. So, Gorilla, take me home. Well, this time it actually worked out. The cigar's to the nub and the rum glass is empty, so I think it's about that time. I want to thank Josh Habursky for being on the show. And on behalf of the Gorilla, live from the Gorilla Enclosure, Lawrence and Greg and myself, thank you for listening. Check us out at loopcigarcartel.com. Like and share us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. And don't be a stranger. Give us an opinion, good or bad. Let us know you're out there. I'm Scott Robinson, and on behalf of all of us here at Beyond the Humidor, we look forward to chatting with you on the next episode. Micronations. But until then, stay healthy and safe. And as I always say, good smoke, good drink, and good life. Take care, everybody.